Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Single Lady Chronicles. Thank you for tuning in to Single Lady Chronicles, spending some real time with Renata. Woo, last week was a doozy, wasn't it? Oh my goodness. So we talked about how we put off for tomorrow what we can do today, basically. We basically talked about procrastinating and we basically talked about how we want to do something, but we never get around to doing it. And so, you know what? I figured let me keep that going for the first quarter of the year. So, from now on until the end of March, we are going to be talking about how we are going to reach our goals. And I'm so excited about that because it's the beginning of a new year, 2026. We're still in the beginning. Yes, we're not saying Happy New Year all the time. We're not saying Merry New Year all the time, but we are still level setting for the year for 2026, right? So we're making sure that our year is successful. And it doesn't matter what we're doing. We could be setting a goal for a career, or we could be setting a goal for fixing something in the house. We could be setting a goal for weight loss. It could be anything, a financial goal, as long as we come up with how we're going to do that. So today on Single Lady Chronicles, we are talking no more tomorrow, how to actually follow through on our goals. Now, as you know, I am not just the host of Single Lady Chronicles. I am somebody setting goals and, hanging out in this life. I'm not perfect at all. At all. And this is how we got here. We got here because I tried to put off tomorrow what I could do today. Again, my friend tapped me on the hand and I was like, you know what? You're right. I can get started. There's no reason why I can't do it now, right? And so I got some tools that we can use on how to get it done now so that we can set our stuff up for the future. Yep. So again, Single Lady Chronicles, thank you for tuning in. No more tomorrow. How to actually follow through on our goal. I'm talking to myself. I'm not just I'm not just somebody talking about it. I am a participant, okay? So, I have 5 ways in which we can do that. All right? This week on Single Lady Chronicles, when we're setting goals and we're making sure that we follow through on what we said we're going to do, I have 5 ways on how we can do that. All right? So, 5 ways to stop delaying and start doing. Again, me too. All right, so number 1, shrink the plan. Stop overwhelming yourself. We talked about this last week. Whatever you want to do doesn't have to be this big, exorbitant thing, right? You can shrink it down to something that's manageable. Big goals create paralysis when they aren't broken down, right? So, what does that mean? You have to put it in bite sized pieces. You have to do it so it's not so much at one point. You have to chunk it. I'm sure you've heard of that. You have to chunk it in a way that's manageable for you, that is in a time frame that you can do, and so that it's not as big and as enormous. Okay, so we are shrinking the plan. We're going to stop overwhelming ourselves. When we overwhelm ourselves, it's the one reason why we procrastinate, right? It's the one reason why we procrastinate. We think it's too much. Oh, I'm tired, right? Oh, I'm not gonna do it. It's too much. That's one of the top reasons why we procrastinate. And so we gotta put it down into bite-sized pieces. We have to chunk it so that it's not as overwhelming for us, because that is the number one reason why we procrastinate and why we make big ideas and we have big ideas and we make big plans and we never get to them. So we want to focus on one task, not the entire transformation. When you focus on one task at a time, that way you are pacing yourself, you are making it manageable, and it is something that is currently in your purview and not something that's large and daunting, right? So you don't want to paralyze yourself with big ideas. There's nothing wrong with a big idea, but you want to break it down. You want to chunk it. You want to focus on one task. Start small and then build your momentum. Start small, build your momentum. It's nothing wrong with, um, having the large idea and then just having the small piece that you start with first, right? So, everyone wants to renovate their house. Everyone wants to renovate their house, right? But you gotta start small first. You can't do the whole thing at one time. You gotta do one room at a time, right? So if you wanna, do something in that garage, start with one wall, right? Or start with the floors first. You don't have to do everything at one time. So let's keep going on this. Keep going on shrink the plan. Action creates clarity. You don't need the full plan to begin. The plan is there, but all you have to do is start building on what you have, and then everything will come into pass, right? Small wins create a motivation loop. Let me tell you something. Um, gosh, when so I decided that I wanted to lose some weight, right? And so I started off with one goal, and then I said, all right, my next goal is this. My next goal is that. When I tell you, when I started off with the small goal first, I was like, oh shoot, here we go, and it was a small win, but it made a big impact. So you want to start with creating small wins, celebrate them, and keep going for the big impact. All right, so that's number one. Shrink the plan. Stop overwhelming yourself. All right, you ready for number two? Because we got five of them. Number two, schedule it like it's non negotiable. So I used to be a planner person, like a book. I used to be a planner person. I had a planner book. I had to write it in my book. If it didn't go in the book, it's not going to happen because, not because, but that's what you did, right? And so these days, when we have our smartphones, our touch screens, honey, if it's not on that phone calendar, it did not happen. And so what you have to do is schedule what your goals are so that you can get to your goals. And you got to do it like it's non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. So what does that mean? Basically, if it's not written down, it's optional. Hello. That means you actually don't care. You actually don't have a plan, right? You actually don't want to get to that. If you don't write it down, you don't put it on that calendar, then it's optional for you. So in order for you to really take heed on making sure you get to that goal, you have to make a commitment to write it down. Put it on that calendar. What else? Your calendar reflects your priorities. Say that again 3 times. Your calendar reflects your priorities. If I always say, and folks in business, folks in this entertainment world, if it ain't on the calendar, it didn't happen. Lots of folks are like, "Oh, you gotta do this, you gotta do that." I'm like, "Is it on my calendar?" Right? Because if it's not on my calendar, then that means it's negotiable or it's optional or it's going or it's or if it's not on my calendar, it's not gonna happen. And so you have to schedule it like it's non-negotiable. Your calendar reflects your real priorities. Treat your goals like appointments you cannot cancel. That part, right? And so when you have this idea, you have these goals, you have to treat it like it's that doctor's appointment you cannot miss, like that blood work that you cannot miss, like that job that you have to go to, right? But in order for you to meet your goals, you gotta treat it like something you cannot miss, okay? It's non-negotiable. In order for you to get to there, you just have to make it a priority. If you don't make it a priority, then it's not gonna happen, and that's just the bottom line, right? Um, block time. Block time for everything. Now, whether the goal is your health or your finances, or personal growth, make time for it. We make time for everything else. We make time for everything else. So for me, one of my goals is my health. I It's non-negotiable for me to make sure I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? To make sure I work out and get my workout in and do what I need to do so that my health and wellness is on track. I do it every day. Every day I work out. And so that's a non-negotiable for me. You have to treat it like it is I'm sorry, you have to block time for it. Block the time for it. If you know you wanna do financial wellness, block 30 to, 60 minutes throughout the day when you get home from work, um, to really sit down and look at your finances, creating a budget, potentially going over it with a financial advisor or ChatGPT, 'cause Chat can be your financial advisor too. Um, you know, take time to really concentrate on that goal, right? Make time for everything that you want. If you don't make time for your goals, then how are you gonna get to your goals? So block time out for it. You have to. If you don't, it's never gonna happen. It's considered negotiable. It's considered optional. Set reminders and create routines. That goes along with blocking that time. My routine of getting up every morning, making sure I start working out between 6 to 6:30, right? You have to do things like it's routine and like it's a part of your life, right? A lot of us sometimes we don't plan and we don't we just kinda fly by the seat of our pants, but if we want to get to where we want, we have to schedule that thing out, we have to create a plan for it, and we have to make sure that we are working toward it, and that's what setting goals are, alright? Protect your time and stop overcommitting. Mm. You'll put it on your calendar and you'll move it, right? Or you'll put it on your calendar and you'll say, "Oh, I'll get to it next week," or something else will get in the way. Protect your time. I protect 6 to 6:30. So much so that even if I have something to do the next morning where I need to leave the house at 6 to 6:30, I'm getting up at 4:30. Right? Because that time is protected because I know in order for me to get to my health and wellness goals, I need to continue and be consistent in my morning workouts that I do every day. I don't skip a day and I make sure that I stick to that routine because it's going to help me get to my goal. All right. Y'all ready for number three? Okay. Remove the excuses before they show up. Baby, man, I can tell you how many times, I try to psych myself out of something um before I could, even get started. And so you have to, remove the excuses before they show up. Identify your top excuses. You know what they are. I'm too tired. I got something else to do. I don't feel like it. Or I've got time. Mm, we all know those. We all know those. But if we're really determined to get to fixing that garage or get to losing that weight or get to starting that podcast or get to starting that web series, writing that book, asking for that promotion, right? Then we have to make sure that we prioritize how we're going to get there and stop making excuses. Build systems that eliminate decision making. That goes back to making that to do list. having that dedicated calendar, making sure and then putting that to-do list in your face, like, in your face every day. Um, you can get a dry erase board, put it on your wall, get those markers color coordinated, right? And make sure that you see it, you put it in front of you every single day, right? Make good habits easy and bad habits hard. What does that mean? What does that mean? Good habits easy. So, put good habits easy. If you know you gotta get up at 4:30 in the morning to do that workout, the alarm ringtone should be the most annoying ringtone there is. So you can be like, I'm up, I'm up, I'm up, right? So that's how you make a good habit easy, right? And then the bad habit hard. How do you stop saying, "Oh, I'm tired." You go to bed. You go to bed, right? And so that's all of removing the excuses before they show up. Design your environment for success. Like I said, get that if you want to work out or do strength training, you know you got to go get those weights. Put the weights in the house. Okay? Remove the excuse. A lot of folks are like, "Oh, I'm too tired to get to the gym." If you're too tired to get to the gym, put the gym in your house. You're removing the excuse. You're removing the excuse. That is getting to your goal. That is being proactive, and that is setting yourself up for success and not failure. If you know that you want to um, get your finances on track, right? Set yourself up a desk in your house where you're going to sit at your chair, sit at your computer, get yourself a good, notebook where you document things on a regular basis. Get that software that you need to upload your receipts, right? Set yourself up. Make sure your environment is conducive for you to achieve your goal and not be procrastinating. Okay. Number 4, create accountability that you can't escape. We show up differently when someone is watching. Yeah. When you know someone is watching, you're like, oh shoot, I'm gonna be on my P's and Q's, right? Create accountability. Tell somebody that this is what you want to do. If you're open to that, this is what you want to do. Because they're watching. It's just as much as you want to get to your goal for yourself, having that accountability partner is top tier, right? Every day I get on the scale. I know lots of people always say, "Yeah, don't get on the scale every day." For me, weight loss is about the scale because, when weight goes up on me, you can't really tell. So for me, it's about the scale. So, um, when I tell my buddy, guess what the scale says every day, and I'm excited and they're excited too. That is accountability, right? That is me creating accountability that I can't escape. Because as long as I know that, I have that buddy that that's just as excited as I am, Imma keep going. And I'm going to continue to want to achieve my goal, right? Tracking progress visually every day. That's why I do it every day. I'm tracking my progress. I'm making sure that I'm staying the course and staying on track. Yeah. So then how about you, um, again, use partners, use check-ins, use public commitments to, put it out there and be accountable to yourself and be accountable to whatever. It could be a person, um, it could be a journal. That's accountability as well. So, yeah, make sure You create accountability that you cannot escape. Yeah, maybe if you don't put it in your journal one day, you feel guilty, like, "Yeah, I didn't put it in my journal that, I didn't save $5." Or, "I didn't put it in my journal that I completed I completed the floors." Or, "I didn't put it in my journal that, um, I" it could be whatever, you know? So, that's accountability that you cannot escape. All right, number 5. Are you ready? We're gonna celebrate, we're going to complete, and we're not going to worry about perfection. Perfection is basically the killer of all dreams, right? We wanna make sure that it's perfect. I'll give you an example. I My friend encouraged me to start Single Lady Chronicles, because, it was fun. We had stories that we wanted to tell, and she was like, "Girl, where's Single Lady Chronicles at? Let me tell my story." And she was my first episode, and she told her story, and but before that, I had a little trepidation. I had trepidation because I was like, "Well, I don't have a camera, um, I don't you know, I don't have, like, a production team, I don't have writers, I don't have this, I don't have that because I come from TV, right? I come from TV. I was on the Dr. Ox show for 7 years as a, on-air correspondent. So, as far as I'm concerned, anything that I do had to be just as good as, an in-studio production at the Dr. Oz show. But guess what? No, it didn't have to be perfect. I started on my phone. I started on my phone, and then later on, I gradually found some apps. Well, some my friend helped me to get some apps to help me, make the production better. I went and got some lights, got me a little backdrop, right? But at the end of the day, you have to start, right? Celebrate you starting, celebrate you completing what you did, and not worrying about it being perfect. And ever since then, you guys have been showing up, showing out, supporting Single Lady Chronicles, and literally adding to, the lexicon of showing up with real time with Renatha. And so I'm just, if I hadn't started, then I would still be waiting on perfection. Literally. And so you can't wait on perfection. You just gotta go ahead and celebrate the goal in advance that you're going to accomplish. Okay, go ahead and complete it and don't worry about it being perfect. Because progress beats perfection every time. Every time. There's always room for improvement, right? There's always room for improvement. So you may as well go ahead and, like I said before, do it anyway. Okay. And then you want to reward yourself for being consistent. Reward yourself because consistency is what is going to get you to completion. Not necessarily completion, but get you to um, making sure that you get to your finish line. You get to your completion, you get to your finish line, and you get to doing what you're saying you are going to do. All right? So, listen, I hope you enjoyed tonight's conversation about how we're not waiting on tomorrow. We are going to actually show up and follow through on our goals. I'm gonna go through the steps one more time. Tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to Single Lady Chronicles. You can watch the replay, but I'm just gonna go ahead and give you the 5 highlights. 5 ways to stop delaying and start doing. Shrink the plan. Stop overwhelming yourself. Schedule it like it's non-negotiable. Remove the excuses before they show up. Create accountability that you cannot escape and celebrate completion, not perfection. Because accomplishing something is better than doing nothing. All right. So, all quarter long, we're going to be talking about how we can, you know, get to our goals in 2026 for the remainder of this first quarter of the year until the end of March, every Friday on Single Lady Chronicles. I was just inspired. Thank you, Fran, again, for, encouraging me to make sure I don't wait until tomorrow. I'm not gonna put off tomorrow what I can do today. Okay? And so all quarter long, we're gonna be just encouraging each other on how we can get our goals accomplished because we got things to do, we have greatness to achieve, and we're going to do it together. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in to Single Lady Chronicles and spending real time with Renata. We'll see you next week. You have a good night.